fellow bookworms. September is dead. My name is Whitney, and we are reading Lady Boss by Jackie Collins. We just read chapters 44 through 64. A little bit slower than what it has been, but still pretty enjoyable. We are going to be discussing those chapters today. Before I do, though, just a reminder I do weekly Wednesday videos and Throwback Thursday videos. I did miss last week because I was sick. So this week there's going to be two videos on each of those days. One for last week's video and last week's book, and then one for this week's video and books. So yeah, I missed because I was sick, but I'm back now and I'm gonna get all caught up. We also have resumed series Saturday. Those aren't gonna be every Saturday, but just as I read the books, I will be doing updates. And I am working my way through my 25 days of Bookmas books and my ABC Author Challenge books. So those bonus videos will pop up here and there. Have a bonus video for a book haul coming out. So if you haven't already, please give this video a like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on anything. So let's go ahead and jump into the discussion questions. Before I do though, just a reminder, there is a certain level of spoilers. We do discuss these chapters and these characters, so there's going to be spoilers. So if you're not quite caught up, don't hesitate to jump off and then come back when you have caught up. Or if you haven't read it at all, go ahead and stick around. It might entice you to read it. You just won't really fully know what we're talking about, and then there's going to be certain spoilers if you do decide to go ahead and read the book. But I hope you will participate. It is 18 plus. It is kind of crude as far as language and kind of derogatory treatment of women and such. So just keep that in mind if you do decide you want to read it. So let's go ahead and jump into the discussion questions. Number one, in what ways does Venus use Cooper? And so Venus uses Cooper in several ways. He's kind of her go-to if nobody else is available. So if Martin or Ron aren't available, she goes to Cooper, figuring he'll be there and he'll be available. And then she also uses him as a sounding board for her relationship with Martin, even though she knows he has a thing for her. Like, she doesn't take that into consideration. She's not leading him on or anything. Like, he knows there's no shot, but it's kind of insensitive, knowing he has feelings for you and then using him to as a sounding board for your relationship with Martin. And then she also puts him in the middle between her and Martin because she wants Martin to leave his wife. And since Cooper's friends with Martin, she puts him in the middle trying to get more information or trying to put pressure on Martin, which I don't think is very fair either. So, number two, would Abigail's reaction to learning about Mickey's mistress been different if Warner had been a different class slash race? And I do think it would have. Because we notice when she first learns, like she talks to Warner on the phone and learns, that she's Mickey's mistress, she believes it and she's going over there to talk to her. And then when she sees where Warner lives, she starts to have doubt. Like, no, this isn't right. Because she's a lower class level than they. She's not as wealthy. She doesn't live in a nice area like they do. So you start seeing that doubt, but she still kind of pushes forward. And then when she sees Warner, that's when she's like, no, this isn't real. And she books it out of there. Like, so it doesn't explicitly say that it's because of the color of her skin, but I kind of got that feeling for sure. And the way she's kind of pointed out, like, that Mickey has a thing for women of color, and such. Earlier in the book, it definitely makes me think that played a factor in Abigail's disbelief. So, number three, after he hits her, Leslie initially decides to leave Eddie. Why doesn't she stick to this? And I think, a lot of women who are in abusive relationships kind of go through this where she's scared of what to do next. Like, she doesn't know where to go from here. She knows she goes back to Loretta's for the night, but she doesn't want to go back to work for Loretta, and she really has no other options. And so I think that played a big part of it, but she also kind of overshadowed what he did with the good things about Eddie, and I think kind of not really justifying what he did, but in a way it is, because she's just like, well, but he's, kind, and he's this and this. Like, he's really not that bad. Like, he hit me once. Like, it's really not that bad. He's a cocaine addict. It's really not that bad. So it's kind of justifying it because she looks at all the pros and makes them outweigh the cons, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of like she just started looking at all the good things about Eddie to kind of forget about the bad things to make it make sense to stay, I guess. So, and four, after Emilio breaks in, Venus has a gut feeling he is up to something. Why doesn't she press the issue more? And I think, in short, she just didn't want to deal with him. So instead of getting in a big fight and trying to figure out what he was doing, she felt pretty secure as far as like her security and such. And so she just was like, I'm just going to let it go because I don't want to deal with him. And I think that's what it boils down. She just didn't want to deal with him. And it was easier just to take him at his word than try to get the truth out of him. So. Number five, Dina knows it is wrong and sees through Paul's childish ways of asserting his manhood. So why does she humor him? And I think she's just really flattered by the attention. And so, her husband not only doesn't give her the attention, but gives it to somebody else. And so she's flattered, she has this young man giving her the attention that she doesn't get at home. And then I think she also justifies it in a way because she isn't serious. Like, she's like, I'm not gonna, pursue anything romantic with him. So it's okay to kind of flirt with the idea. And I think that's kind of how she justifies it, and that's why she continues to humor him because she likes the attention. And she's not serious about pursuing anything with him. So what's the harm in getting that attention and feeling good about herself? And number six, Lucky finally gives the big news to Lenny, which doesn't go over well. Who is in the wrong here? And both of them are in the wrong, and neither of them are in the wrong. It's kind of just an issue of miscommunication. I think Lenny, he had built up this idea of a baby so much in his mind that he was extremely let down when that wasn't the big news, and he was kind of hurt, like his manhood or whatever was threatened because he feels like, well, I'm going to be working for you. You bought the studio with your money. It's not our studio. I'm going to be working for you, and you're my wife. And so I think, he kind of has a right to be hurt. And she's been lying to him for 6 weeks. Like, yes, it's for this big surprise, but she never took his feelings into account at all. And so he has a right to be kind of hurt and upset, but at the same time to be mad about the news wasn't about her being pregnant. And kind of is the opposite direction of making a family and having a baby and such. That's he needs to take into who he's married to as well. And then with Lucky, like I said, she lied to him for weeks. Like, yes, her intentions were good. She wanted to buy the studio for him so he didn't have to deal with all the politics and such, and the crap that went along with that. But she never took in his feelings into account. She knows he wants a baby and he wants to go down that road, which she's agreed to. She just didn't agree to when. But she doesn't take his feelings into account. She justifies lying to him. Like, this is a big thing. It affects their whole lives. It shouldn't have been a surprise. It should have been a discussion with them. And so she really doesn't treat him as a partner. So yes, her intentions were good, but she failed to take into account Lenny's feelings, and treat him as an equal partner in the relationship. So number seven, why does Cooper continue to allow Venus to put him in the middle between her and Martin? And I think it's because he does care about her, and he cares about her deeply, and so he's kind of willing to play any role in her life that he can get, just to be able to be around her. And it adds an importance to him that nobody else can offer her because he is friends with Martin, and he was friends with Martin when they met and everything. And so it adds an importance to his role in her life. And I think he kind of likes that. So he doesn't mind being used or anything like that because he gets the attention and he gets to play this important role in her life. Number 8. How do the differences between Bridget, Nona, and Tabitha reflect the influences in their life? And so you have three girls. They're all very, very wealthy. Obviously, Bridget is on a separate level than the other two, but very wealthy. Has the whole world at their fingertips. With Bridget, though, she's suffered trauma, and the people that she has in her life kind of choose to be there. And so that kind of reflects she has a certain maturity, and she knows what she wants, and she kind of makes the decisions for herself. And especially, the people that are in her life, Lucky and Lenny, like the Lucky's a businesswoman and she goes out and she kind of makes her own path in life. And same thing with Lenny. And so I think that kind of has influenced her too, to know, like, to just make your choices and go for it and stick with it, which is sometimes hard. And then you have Nona, who has her parents are a little bit alternative, granted, but she has that stability in her life. But she's not spoiled by it, if that makes sense. I think with how her parents live, the drugs and such, like, she kind of has a certain maturity too, and she's not spoiled by the wealth or anything like that. And she kind of has a good head on her shoulders. And then you have Tabitha, whose parents are very greedy, and yeah, they have money, but they always want more, and they're very selfish. Like, what can I get out of something? And that reflects her. She plays her parents against each other, and she's wanting a Porsche. She's trying to manipulate them into agreeing to give her a Porsche when that's 3 years down the line before she'll ever be able to do anything with it. And you see that greed and corruption, even though she's only 13, and how she kind of plays them against each other because she knows, okay, that this is a game. Like, get what you want and see, do anything you can to get what you want. And so she has that influence, and it trickled down to her for sure. And number 9, Carlos Bonatti decides to skip over Eddie and go directly to Mickey. Why? And he says it himself. He knows, like, he could break Eddie's legs and such, but nothing he does is going to get him the money when it comes to Eddie, because Eddie simply doesn't have it. And technically, the deal was with Panther Studios. So he does kind of have the leg to stand on, even though Mickey has kind of washed his hands because this was Eddie's deal. Eddie's the one that stole. But yeah, but Nani's smart because he knows, well, there's no way I'm getting that money out of Eddie, so I'm gonna go to Mickey, the head of the studio, who I have the deal with, and get my money that way. So, and number 10, why didn't Mickey have anyone to turn to after he was arrested? And so he tries to call, like, Ford Warner. Uh, uh, I can't remember the last name. Never mind. I think I'm messing that up. But he tries to call him, who's one of the, like, department heads in the studio. But of course, he doesn't get an answer, and he has nobody he can really trust. Because all the people he's either trying to hide, like Abigail, he doesn't want her to know he was arrested for what he was arrested for. So he's trying to hide that, and he can't trust them, or he has nobody he can fully trust and depend on because he's arrogant and he's kind of polarized people. And so he has nobody to lean on because of his arrogance and just how he treats people. And so yeah, it's a shame because he doesn't have anybody to call. The one person he tries to call doesn't answer. Like, he doesn't have anybody to lean on. The only way he got out was because Loretta's lawyers swooped in. Like, that's the only way he got out. And number 11 is the last question. Why was Ben's reaction so different from everyone else's to Abe's news? Um, and so Ben is Primrose, who is the other sister's husband. And you notice, like, when Abe drops the news, Primrose and Abigail's like, "Well, what about our money? Like, you have to discuss this with us. Like, we have a right to this." And Abe's like, "No, you don't. Like, this is my money." And then Mickey, loses his temper, like, "Well, I resign. Like, you can find another sucker," and just completely loses his head. Where Ben's like, "Well, hold on a minute. Like, this is Lucky Santangello. Like, she knows what she's about. And so he's kind of using his head. Like, I know he's not a good person based just on what Abe has talked about. But he's kind of using his head because he could potentially still have a position there. The inheritance, that's his wife's inheritance. So he knows he really doesn't have any claim to that. Like, that's all his wife's anyway. And he's overseas. And so he runs the operations overseas. He's not like in the day-to-day operations on the home front. And so he's kind of using his head like, hey, this could actually be a good thing. Like, I don't have to deal with Mickey anymore. And I could potentially still solidify my position and still make this work for me because Lucky is a businesswoman and she's very good at business. So I think he was the only one kind of thinking it through versus just reacting. And he knows like there's nothing you can do. You're not gonna browbeat Abe into anything. He's made his decision. So how can we use this decision to work for us? Like he's the only one that kind of was smart about it, I guess. So but yeah, that's it for the discussion questions. Let me know any of your thoughts down in the comments below. Really excited to kind of see what happens between Lucky and Lenny and kind of what she does with the studio going forward. And also, Martin, I'm pretty sure he bought Orpheus, which is the competitor studio. And so that I'm sure is going to come into play as well. Should be really interesting. This week we are going to be reading chapters 65 through 85. This is the second to last week. And then next week we'll finish up the last set of chapters. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.